Hi, welcome to another edition of This Issue. My guest this time is Herbert Hoffman, who is running for the United States Senate as an independent candidate. Herb, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bruce. I'm pleased to be up here.
Herb, tell us about yourself. Where do you live?
Well, I live in Agunquit, Maine, obviously Maine, and I've lived there for some years now. And I'm retired.
Retired what?
I'm a clinical psychologist.
Uh-huh.
And shortly after my wife's very serious illness, I stopped seeing patients, and we were both psychologists. We both stopped, and I took care of her, and we took care of each other. And I decided not to return to my profession after she passed.
So you retired?
I'm retired.
Yeah.
Although it's a very active retirement, I assure
yes.
you of that.
You've been very involved in the Maine impeachment and anti-war movement throughout the state for the last several years.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And what is that number on your shirt?
That number represents the number of United States military killed in Iraq, the official number as of this morning. And I've been wearing this number since February of '05.
You wear it every day?
Every day. Sometimes I change it once. I've changed it as many as 3 times in one day.
Really?
Yeah.
And how do you find out what the number is?
I go to antiwar.com, which is a website, and they have U.S. casualties on that site.
Uh-huh. Well, Herb, tell us, why did you decide to run for the United States Senate against Susan Collins and Tom Allen as an independent?
Of course, when I decided to run, there were no official candidates, although one could surmise that it would be Collins and Allen at the time. You may remember, Bruce, that in '06, there was a lot of discussion by the Democratic Party and the Democratic candidates that elect us, we will end the war, we will bring health care to everyone in the United States. And '06 came and went. '07 came and went. Here we are in '08, and the Democrats have not ended the war, have not brought health care to all the people. As a matter of fact, I think that's still on their platform. So that was a major reason. I felt that it was important to have a voice in the Senate race that advocated out of Iraq and Afghanistan, all military troops out, all contractors out of those sovereign states.
You're talking about the privatized armies
that's right.
we now have in the thousands.
Which number much more than what we have in our own military. I saw a figure the other day of 180,000 contractors, and we have about 140, 145.
These are the Blackwater privatized.
Right. And other
mercenaries.
Many of them are mercenaries. They carry weapons. They fire at will, if you will.
Yeah.
And so these were important issues for me to enter the race. Mm-hmm.
Well, you went out and you gathered your 4,000 plus signatures. You're required by law to have 4,000 signatures to get on the ballot.
Yeah.
The Secretary of State approved your signatures, is that correct?
Secretary of State approved my signatures.
He put you on the ballot, was going to put you on the ballot.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happened?
There was a challenge by a Mr. John Knutson, who just happens to be the chairman of the Maine Democratic Party. And that challenge had about 6 or 7 different counts. And some were quite valid. After inspection, there were 55 duplicate signatures. Obviously, we stipulated those go. There were, the Democratic Party, through Knutson, claimed that there was something like 350 invalid signatures. Well, that got reduced down to a total of 71. Some signatures, even though the town clerks had approved them as registered voters, we couldn't read the names, so they went out.
But
so it was down to 7. So at that point, I had 4,041 signatures. The Secretary of State said, they're good, certified signatures, you're on the ballot. Democratic Party appealed to Superior Court in Kennebec County. Judge Martin, Superior Court, heard the case and ruled the Secretary of State was not in error when he approved my signatures for the ballot. I'm on the ballot. Party appealed to the Maine Supreme Court.
The Democratic Party.
The Democratic Party. And the Maine Supreme Court, after a hearing, determined that the Secretary of State was in error. It was on a technicality and a reading of the law. And even though there was case law that had been established that showed the Secretary had functioned appropriately, the Maine Supreme Court ruled that I did not qualify, essentially. We went through a series of legal actions, including going to the United States Supreme Court. That was not heard. Our most recent legal action was with the First District Federal Court in Portland. The First District Court heard the case just a week ago, less than a week ago, and Judge Hornby ruled that on a technicality, he would not issue a temporary restraining order or an injunction so that my name could remain on the ballot. Actually, in his decision, he expressed some sympathy for the position I was in, but nonetheless said this is the law. As of this morning, while we are taping.
Well, this is September 4th, I believe, is it not?
Today is September 4th.
Yeah.
As of this morning, my attorney, John Branson of Portland, is filing and probably has filed a request for an emergency injunction so that I can remain on the ballot. We have determined that the Judge Hornby, the Federal District Court judge, made two errors, significant errors in his ruling. And we are challenging those errors. If the court, we may be on the ballot.
Now, I went to two of the hearings, and largely the legal discussion was around this whole question of presence. The Democrats were saying that you did not personally witness every single signature, even though you were physically in the area, you were physically nearby, but that you did not see visually every single signature. And the Democrats went out and found, what was it, three people?
Three people.
Who testified in the first court case that you actually won, testified that you did not actually witness their signing these petitions. Now, this is, to me, very unusual because what I've seen in this state is when people gather signatures, they put a thing on a table, often on caucus day, and there's a lot of people milling around, or the clipboard gets passed around the room, and there's people signing, and so that the person that verifies the signature, saying that these are all legal and good signatures, they take an oath that, they didn't necessarily witness every single signature. And I've heard many different people tell me since your case emerged that they've seen this happen for years. And that the Democrats have been doing it this way for years themselves.
Common practice. So
the Democrats have used this manipulative device, this legal definition of presence, to kick you off the ballot when they themselves have been doing the same thing for a long time, right?
Absolutely. I, too, have been at Democratic caucuses. After all, I was a Democrat for 54 consecutive years until this last January. And I recall distinctly being in a Democratic headquarters where I was, this is just one example, where I was volunteering. And on the wall in this Democratic headquarters were a series of petitions with masking tape adhering to the wall. Now, there's nobody watching people sign. At the caucuses on February 10th of this year, it was a madhouse in Maine, as it was in many states where there were Democratic caucuses. And just as an example, Tom Allen filed almost 3,000 signatures to qualify. As a party member, he only had to file 2,000. 79 sheets of his, I believe, roughly 133 sheets were signed by caucus conveners.
All on the day of the caucus.
97% of the signatures he submitted were signed on the day of the caucus. So, for anybody who's watching, if you were at a Democratic caucus, and if you were a caucus convener or you knew a caucus convener, you knew that the caucus conveners were much more occupied trying to get the caucus in order than watching individuals sign signatures on a petition sheet. And remember, there were multiple petitions at those caucuses.
Yes, for multiple candidates.
Multiple candidates, yes.
Yeah. And so they used a technicality to get you off the ballot that they themselves were guilty.
That's right. And the decision rendered by the court was to apply a standard to my petitions that had not existed prior to the challenge.
It was common practice to do it the way you did and that everyone else did.
That's right.
In fact, when you went to federal district court, I heard the judge ask the lawyer for the state, is there a rule that specifically says that the person gathering the signatures has to witness every single signature?
Yes.
And the response of the state's lawyer was, no, there is no such rule.
That is correct. She was correct when she said that.
So you were thrown off the ballot for violating a rule that didn't even exist.
That's right.
What were the Democrats so afraid of that they went to all this trouble, they spent all this money to hire these lawyers to chase you around from court to court to court to try to get you off the ballot? What were they so afraid of?
I just want, Bruce, one other thing though. Like, it wasn't just the lawyer's expense, which was considerable, we imagine, but it was testified by the executive director of the state party at the challenge hearing that at least 120 hours were spent going over my petitions. And the coordinated campaign had 4 people. So people who had contributed to the coordinated campaign to the state Democratic Party were now paying for this challenge. I'm not sure that they really would have appreciated that.
So what were the Democrats?
What are they afraid of?
Yeah, what were they afraid of?
You know, it's an old story. As you may recall, I was a senior staff member in Dennis Kucinich's recent presidential campaign. And the Democrats were clearly afraid of Dennis and what he had to say. And they still are, for that matter. And I saw this up front and close. And then I saw it applied to me. They do not want the issues, such as I have said already early in the program, they do not want the issues of out of Iraq and Afghanistan now. They do not want the issue of single-payer health care systems, not-for-profit systems, Medicare for all, debated. They do not want that on the platform, on the debate platform. And they do not want discussion of holding this administration accountable. They do not want impeachment mentioned. And we saw that in the recent Democratic convention. And indeed, Dennis Kucinich's speech was censored. They took impeachment, the word impeachment, out of his speech. He was not allowed to mention that. So these are the issues. And without me on the debate platform, without me in this race, those issues will not be raised either by Senator Collins or Tom Allen. They will not be debated. The people of Maine will not hear that debate. And they're afraid. What are they afraid of? Because they know that there will be a resonance among the voters if those issues are raised.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I heard that 3 of the people that the Democrats brought to the court to testify against you, saying that you had not personally witnessed them signing the signatures, one of these people received a job working for the Democratic Party immediately following that. Is that true?
This is what I know. I believe I have the right person. This person was offered a position in the coordinated campaign.
What is the coordinated campaign?
The coordinated campaign is a regionalized structure with over 50 personnel in it that was set up
of the Democratic
Party,
okay,
which was set up so that they had staff people all over to get out the vote to advance the
I just want to be clear.
Yeah.
A coordinated campaign is the Democratic Party's campaign in Maine.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. And it's my understanding that he turned that position down, that he was so disgusted with the intimidation and threatening tactics that the party had applied to him. This is a young man, a very young man, registered voter, very young man, and he regrets his participation.
So you're saying that the Democrats intimidated and pressured people to testify against you?
Yes.
They were people that signed your petition. The Democrats went through the list, saw a name that they knew. They went after them. They pressured them to testify against you.
They went after many. People are still. I'm still encountering people who were contacted by the party and attempting to get them to testify against me. And they would not, they did not, they had nothing they could say that would be against me. They finally found, they actually subpoenaed 6 people. 4 of them showed up at the hearing, the challenge hearing. 1 was knocked off because that person's testimony just didn't have any substance to it. And then these 3 were left.
And they basically testified that you didn't see them sign.
Yes, basically. Yeah. And also I would say that one of the 3 people, one of the 3 witnesses was a state representative for the Democratic Party, representing the Democratic Party. And it's my understanding he, like many other members of the party who hold public office or party office, were given a great deal of grief by the party leadership.
For signing your petition?
For signing my petition.
And there were 2 people that were on the state executive committee.
Yes.
David Bright,
yes,
the husband of Jean Hay Bright, who ran for the Senate in the last election, and Lou Bauer from the Brunswick area.
Yes.
These 2 people who were on the executive committee of the Democratic Party were kicked off because they were supporting your campaign. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct.
So there was lots of...
And one might even question whether Lou Bauer was supporting my campaign. What she did was she collected some petitions, she collected some signatures on petitions on my behalf. This was before anybody was on the ballot. Remember, the primary had not taken place during the petition period for an independent candidate.
So the Democrats really were working hard across the state to get you off this ballot.
Yes.
Now, usually we hear that it's the Republicans that are the ones that are trying to limit democracy, that are trying to limit participation in elections. But it was the Democrats in Maine, let's be fair about this, in 2004 that went to court to try to get Ralph Nader off the ballot. And now you, what are the Democrats so afraid of? I just think we have to keep coming back to this issue.
Well, I cannot speak for them. Certainly or what their state of mind is, but it appears that they feel that they don't have sufficient substance to win on their own merits. So they're concerned that I will raise issues that will detract from their platform issues, that I will take votes away from the Democratic candidate.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Take votes away.
Right.
It's almost like there's an assumption that the Democrats are entitled to or own certain votes.
That's correct.
Let's say my vote, for example.
Yes.
The Democrats think that, well, I own Bruce's vote, and if we allow Herb Hoffman to be on the ballot, then Bruce might vote for him. Right. And so we can't allow that because I own Bruce's vote.
Right.
Isn't that kind of the assumption?
I believe that is, Bruce, and I have a lot I can say about that. What I would point out is that there's, in this state right now, as there is around the country, there's a lot of negativism towards both parties, both major political parties. And what we see reflected in the polls, let's say the Rasmussen polls in this state, is that there are a lot of Democrats who are voting for the Republican candidate who intend to, or a lot of Republicans who intend to vote for the Democratic candidate, not as many. But those are negative votes. Those are, by and large, votes against something. I'm offering the opportunity for voters to vote for a person and a platform that is most close to what their belief system, their conscience is. And I think, in this case, the Democrats are afraid. Personally, I never believed that Tom Allen had the possibility of beating Susan Collins. That was my assessment way back. But I think I had a very, very small chance of doing that, and I'm in this race to do that still. I would say also, Bruce, that since I looked it up on my calendar a few days ago, February 29th, when I first met with Tom Allen after I had announced, and he asked me, he urged me to not run, to not go out and collect signatures, to stop collecting signatures. And since that time, there's been a member of the Democratic Executive Committee who sent out a letter to Kucinich supporters telling them not to submit their petitions if they had collected signatures, not to submit them to me, urging key members of my campaign committee to urge me not to submit my petitions, not to follow through. Tom Allen made a round of phone calls to key people who he knew were close to me, either on the campaign or personal friends, to urge them to urge me not to submit my petitions. Tom Allen himself and his chief of staff asked me to join the campaign, the Allen campaign, not to submit my petitions, not to run, but join them and head up a progressive arm, which speaks to you, Bruce, so that I could bring you back into the party or bring you back in as a supporter of Tom Allen. So all this is going on. None of those intimidating tactics or seducing tactics worked, and so the challenge, and they went to court. And
so what we're talking about here, to me,
yeah.
See, I'm a very simple person. I like it straight and easy, okay?
Yeah.
What we're here talking about is democracy.
Little d democracy.
What I was taught when I was a kid in school was that America was different from everybody else because we believed in people's right to vote for who they wanted to vote for, to run for office, and that we were the kind of country that embraced this idea of democracy. And so here you were kind of swallowed the bait, okay? You thought, look, I'm not happy with these two parties, what they're saying, either one of them. I want to bring the voters a positive alternative. Let me run. You played by the rules. You went out. You got your signatures. You did it the way everybody else does it. Okay, you got a little help from some people, but you gathered the signatures.
All volunteer.
The Secretary of State said that you fulfilled all the requirements, and then you end up with this legal challenge.
And a judge at the Superior Court level said I did.
Yeah, and so it's very clear that this whole thing was done to kick you off the ballot, which to me violates my idea, my vision, my understanding of democracy. And it really gets my blood boiling because it seems that what we've got here is this two-party system that says no one is allowed to stand against this two-party system.
I call it a one-party system at this point, Bruce.
Why do you call it that?
Because I think both the leadership in both parties, which is in large measure apparently ruled by corporate money and lobbyist money, have similar interests in maintaining the establishment.
Like, what do you mean?
Like, we don't hold our executives accountable. We don't hold our Congress people accountable. We push special interests, the war machine, the military, industrial, big pharma, big insurance company, pharmaceuticals company, big insurance company interests. We push those, and if other voices were heard.
So socialism for the rich, bail out the banks.
Yes.
Bail out the banks, but when the poor people got home heating oil problems and they can't afford it, well, sorry, we have a budget deficit crisis. We can't do much to help you out, right?
Yes, and when coming to the budget deficit crisis, you do not hear the parties speaking to reducing the military budget. In this current fiscal year, 08, the military budget, as estimated by Chalmers Johnson, is $1.1 trillion. As Everett Dirksen would say, that's beginning to sound like real money.
Over 50 cents out of every federal tax dollar now controlled by the military.
Yes.
We're running out of time. Let me ask you this question. Now that it appears at this moment, you're still challenging, but it appears that the Democrats have succeeded in bouncing you off the ballot. What are you going to do now?
Number one, I am in federal court today asking for reconsideration. That may or may not pan out. We don't know. I can't predict.
Yeah.
However, I am committed to running as a write-in candidate if I'm not on the ballot, and I'm continuing to campaign. I will continue to campaign, and I will make every effort I can to have my voice heard and the voice of the people I represent. And I think that's a large number of people and large number of voters in Maine. If people
Why don't you just give up? I mean, why are you still putting yourself through this?
This is much too important an issue to give up. The principles involved, the underlying foundational principles of the United States Constitution are at stake here. Yes, I am one person, I am one candidate. But if I don't exist, then who does exist? We each must play our role, take our responsibility for preserving and protecting the Constitution of the United States, especially in view of the fact that Senator Collins and Representative Allen, who have been in the Congress 12 years each, have failed in fulfilling their oath to protect and defend the Constitution.
If people want to learn more about you and your campaign, how can they get in touch with you?
They can go to www.HoffmanForSenate, that's one word, HoffmanForSenate.us. That's www.HoffmanForSenate.us. We have an updated website. It's very easy to work with, and you can learn a lot about me as well as my positions.
Well, Mr. Herbert Hoffman, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Bruce,
I appreciate having you.
I appreciate being here and having the opportunity to speak with you and your viewers.
And thanks for believing in democracy. I think that's very important. And thank you for watching another edition of This Issue. Until next time, good luck to you all, and please get organized.